Hi there, this is Justine Calderwood, certified birth healing specialist and women's health physical therapist here at the Healing Spot. And today I want to show you a release for the pelvic floor if you're suffering from some back issues. So I'm going to show you a release here in just a little bit, but I'm going to go over why would we look at the pelvic floor and do a release for the pelvic floor if you're experiencing back pain. That might be a little bit of a mystery to you. So I'm just holding here a female pelvis, okay? So you can see the bony ring here, and your spine would be stacked up here. So the legs have been taken off, okay? But as we look at this bony ring, you can see really the pelvic floor is the bottom of the back. Okay, so if you have back pain and no one has asked you about your function of your pelvic floor, like asking you simple things like how are your bowel or bladder function? Do you have any leaking? Do you have any pain when you have sex? Do you have pain with orgasm or penetration? Those kinds of things. Do you have a suspected history of endometriosis? Do you have issues with digestion? Do you have irritable bowel syndrome? Okay, so it may not necessarily be pain in this area for you to have a dysfunction in the pelvic floor that might be indirectly causing some back pain. So I'm going to show you that release in a little bit, but you can see as I just tip this a little bit, you can see this sling of muscles called the pelvic floor muscles. I mean, there's more names to it, but collectively they're called the pelvic floor, help to support the bottom of your pelvis. You can see how they attach on the inside of the pelvic bones, so they help to provide stability to the pelvis as well as the hips over here. And you can see here's the coccyx, the very tip of your tailbone. So if you were to take your finger and basically go between your butt cheeks, you could go all the way down, and that's where you're feeling. If I turn this around, you're going to see that. This is the bottom of your back. So if you were to go down between your butt cheeks, you're going to feel this coccyx. You can see from the bottom how these pelvic floor muscles are attached to that coccyx. So imagine if you have a tight pelvic floor, maybe from pain or tightness or from childbirth, or maybe you've had some kind of trauma to this area, sports injury, a fall skiing or snowboarding, or maybe you've fallen off a horse, or you used to dance a lot, or you still do, or you're in gymnastics. I mean, there's so many reasons why you might have a pelvic floor that's tight or dysfunctional. You can see how that could pull on the coccyx, which would then pull on the sacrum, which would then pull on like L5, S1, or anywhere up the spine. In fact, it could go all the way to your head, and you may be experiencing headaches from a pelvic floor dysfunction. But I'm going to keep this real simple and just wanted to talk a little bit about the back pain. So I mentioned some of the diagnoses that you might have or some issues that you might have. So how do you release this? I'm going to show you a very gentle and very general release for the pelvic floor and the inner thighs, which actually attach onto the pubic bone here in the front. Okay, so you might recognize this if you are a yogi, okay? We're just gonna do basically child's pose, but I'm gonna show you how you can do this. So yogis call it extended child's pose. So basically if you just start in a tabletop position or on all fours, if you have a yoga mat, it shows you kind of where and how far to go, but you don't have to. I'm just gonna spread my legs out a little bit so my knees are on the outer part of the yoga mat. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to keep my sacrum or my tailbone slightly, basically flat as I lean back, and I'm just gonna sink into this a little bit. Hands are gonna go out in the front, and then from there I'm just gonna tip my tailbone up just a little bit. I'm not overly arching my back, but just do a tiny little bit of a tip up through your tailbone, and then you can go face down. So with this, what I want you to do is really breathe into, ideally I would be down, but I want you to be able to see me and hear me. So what I want you to do is really breathe down into the pelvic floor and feel the sits bones start to open up. So bring your breath and awareness all the way down there, whether you're male or female, just bring it down like basically to your genitalia, and breathe into that area and let your inner thigh muscles also open up and lengthen out, okay? So with this, you want to hold for a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes, okay? So the first 90 seconds to 2 minutes is really going to be that soft tissue starting to release. So the more that you can soften into that, let your body kind of melt and open up, it'll engage that soft tissue called fascia, okay? And then if we hold, again, a minimum of 3 minutes, because we really want to start to cause some permanent changes to go on into the soft connective tissue. but ideally if you can hold for 5 minutes or even longer, okay? So you can decide here if you have shoulder issues and you feel like, well, that's too much of a stretch, just bring your hands back a little bit. It's okay, okay? Otherwise you can go out, face down, and sink down into it. So it's okay if you're feeling a stretch into your upper back, okay? That can also be pulling and causing some lower back issues. But really the biggest thing here is that you're connecting with your body through the breath, being aware of what's going on, feeling those releases, feeling the softening. Allow your body to sink down closer and closer to the floor. Okay? And then when you're done, I'm not going to hold it for the whole time, but then you can just walk your hands back and you can bring your legs back in, and then you can either sit or you can stand up from there. Okay? So try that. Let me know what you think. And if you have any specific questions, certainly reach out to me, but also you can head to my website at healingspotpt.com. Fill out an inquiry form. If you have questions that you want answered by an expert, just fill that out and let me know what's going on with you and what your concerns are, and I'll reach out to you, okay, based on the information that you fill out on that form. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next week.